Welcome to another broadcast of the Deborah Ruffini Show on the Artist First Radio Network. All past broadcasts are podcasts. Find them at artistfirst.com. And now, your host, live from England, here she is. It's Deborah Ruffini.
Greetings from England. This is Deborah Ruffini with another broadcast of the Deborah Ruffini Show. Today it is my pleasure to be speaking with the lovely Christine Krushelnitsky of Recovering Ex-Christians to discuss a variety of faith-related matters. Christine, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're more than welcome. Oh, it's a great pleasure, and it's always funny when I speak to an overseas guest because it's like really late at night here. Well, it's not really late at night, but it's sort of afternoon time at your neck of the woods.
Yeah, it's 5 p.m. here.
Oh, the night is still young.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it was great to chat. Christine and I had a really interesting chat about a few days ago now, wasn't it? And it was just sort of I came across the Recovering Ex-Christians. I don't even know if I'm a member of it. I do apologise if I'm not. I think I am.
You don't have to be, because that's how you contacted me. So yes, you are.
Oh, that's good then. I'm relieved about that. Really interesting post I find, and very informative. And I think lots of people have different struggles with the faith and coming to various conclusions, either whether you still believe and you've got various queries, or you walk away from the faith and there's no right or wrong, and because belief is complex and our minds are complex, and what the flying fig do we know? So Christine, how do you feel about sort of sharing about your life and what brought you to just your background and faith?
Yeah, thank you. So I think, first of all, I just want to kind of clarify, a lot of people seem to have a lot of misconceptions about what it means for somebody to be an ex-Christian. And they just sort of say, like, right off the bat, like, oh, well, clearly you were never a real Christian, or clearly you didn't really understand the gospel message, or you never really gave your life to Jesus. Yeah. Or they assume, oh, well, you were just following your family, and then you became an adult and you left that. Or they'll sometimes assume, well, maybe it's because you gave up on the Christian faith because it was too hard, and you weren't willing to pay the price. I've heard a lot of these accusations along my way. Some people sometimes think, well, I left because I was angry at God or angry at Christians, or my favorite, of course, is, well, you just wanted to sin. Yeah.
Oh, crikey, it's insulting. Yeah.
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 So in telling my story, I think I kind of want to dispel some of those ideas. So to start from the beginning, I was born into a Catholic family. So my mom was born Catholic, and she had converted my dad. So they were Catholic when they married. So technically speaking, if you ask my Catholic friends, I'm Catholic, because I would be considered a lapsed Catholic, I guess, because you are, when you're baptized, you go into the rosters of the Catholic Church. So I'm in their numbers, apparently. But by the time I was 3 years old, my parents converted, and they joined a church called Brethren, which is known in England as Plymouth Brethren. Yeah. Very conservative. I'm not sure how familiar you are with them, but they believe in submission of women, silence in the church, head coverings. Yeah. Like really hardcore as far as conservative, fundamental Christianity.
Yeah, you got to wear hats. Is that right? The women got to wear hats or keep the head? Yeah.
Yeah, they're little doilies that we had to wear. Or at least that's kind of what they look like. These little lace tea doilies.
Oh, yeah.
Some of them were like a triangle that you would put, like a lace triangle. They look beautiful, actually. It kind of looks like a bridal veil to some degree. And then you could wear a hat as well, I guess, if you wanted that. But the point was that women had to be wearing a sign of submission on their head, because the head of the husband is the head of the wife, as the Christ is the head of church, and so the woman had to cover her head. Okay. So yeah, it goes back to just a lot of patriarchal ideas. I guess we're very dominant in that community. We have very strict gender roles.
Okay.
And I didn't really have any issues growing up in that faith community. In fact, I loved it.
Yeah.
My life was immersed in church, so it was like 24/7 Christianity. When I was in grade 2 to grade 6, I went to a Christian private school, and that's where I first learned the unkindness of some Christians, where I had kids that would make fun of me because we were on a subsidy, we were low income, and the kids would make fun of me for wearing Salvation Army clothes.
Oh, yeah.
Really, really nice. And these days, I love Salvation Army clothes.
Yeah.
Secondhand's great, but back then, kids could be quite mean. So. But other than that, I generally had a great time in growing up in that Christian culture. I went to this club called Awana, which I don't know if you have that on your side of the pond, but it stands for Approved Workmen Are Not Ashamed.
No, I don't have that.
It's the Christian equivalent of Scouts or of Girl Guides kind of thing. So there was a lot of games that you'd play, a lot of relay races, and instead of earning badges for camping, you would earn badges for memorization of the Bible. And
right.
I started that very young. I was, I believe, 3, possibly, 3 or 4-ish. Like, I'm not even sure if I could read when I started, but my parents were leaders, and so I tagged along every week, and by the time I got to the end of the program, I was doing the Bible trivia programs where they would take you and compete with you against other churches to see who had the best Bible memory skills. So it was
sorry, that's really okay.
It really intense, very intense, but very fun. We had Sunday school, of course. Bible camp. Went to an overnight Bible camp that I also really enjoyed. Daily vacation Bible school. So, you could really say, like, I wasn't inundated in Christian culture. We had daily devotion, with my family, with James Dobson was often playing in our house.
Okay.
My dad had the books by Bill Gofford, the How to Train Up a Child, I think it was called.
Oh.
So it was heavy on the Christian discipline side.
Yeah.
That's its own story, because I feel my parents crossed the line from discipline into abuse, but I won't go into all that.
Okay.
So I would say, like, it was a good upbringing for the most part. There was some. It's like any other childhood. There's a mix. So I was happy. I enjoyed all the Christian songs. I had a lot of fun. In my teen years, I was a leader in the Awana Club. In fact, I did the Sparky puppet. So I would, I'm a spark today.
Oh,
learn how to do songs. So I had a lot of fun doing that sort of stuff. But at the same time, it wasn't all roses.
Yeah. I see.
My teen years. Oh, sorry. Did you have a question?
No, that's okay. You go ahead.
Sorry. Please stop me if you have any questions. I don't want to just monologue on and on.
No, that's okay. I'm interested. I'm listening. Yeah, I'm tuning in.
It's a long life. It was 47 years, so no. I won't give you the whole story.
You're still a wee nipper.
So in my teen years, I would say that's when the questions kind of started coming up a lot more, because then I was able to sort of think for myself.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I was, like, very devoted. I had, when I was 5, I asked Jesus into my heart.
Okay.
I remember praying by my parents' bedside, because there was an earthquake, and I was really scared, and my mom said, Jesus will always be with you if you ask him into your heart. And so I remember praying the sinner's prayer, you believe that Jesus died on the cross for your sins, and, you accept his atonement on your behalf, and, then you're saved. Yeah. And at the same time, there was an ongoing journey, so I had to kind of work through what they called the doubts. So a lot of going to Christian retreats and Bible camp, and every time you go, you, like, rededicate your life to Jesus, and you come away on a big spiritual high, big euphoria, because, like, oh, this time it was for real, this time I really believed, So, we don't have those testimonies when you grow up from childhood onwards of, like, this clear line in the sand where, like, oh, I used to do drugs, and then I turned my life to Jesus. Like, it's a very, it's an organic, progressive faith that kind of comes and goes. And, but at the same time, like, I wanted this faith. I believed in this faith. Like, I made every effort to continue to grow in my faith. I loved apologetics. So I used to read like Lee Strobel, The Case for Christ. He also wrote Case for Faith. There was Ray Comfort.
Oh yes, yep.
Yeah, he's known as Banana Man. In the atheist
I remember, yes.
Because of that analogy that he made about bananas. But Josh McDowell, Evidence That Demands Verdict. I had that one.
Yeah.
So I was really into that kind of stuff. I was really into the intellectuals of like how to defend the faith. And I was a little evangelist. When I was in junior high, on through high school, I took every opportunity that we had for a school presentation to do something about Jesus, something about, why the Bible is true. And I'm sure I drove my peers nuts. I had like Jesus stickers all over my backpack, and I was that kid. And when I was 15 and 16, I went to Child Evangelism Fellowship for the summer. I did a summer missions trip with them. Yeah. I missed my own prom because I did a summer missions trip with Campus Crusade for Christ. Mm. So, yeah, for all those people who say, like, oh, well, you just left Christianity because you didn't, it was too hard for you. You didn't want to stand up for Jesus. I'm like, no.
It sounds like you're giving your all. You're giving your 100%.
I was a diehard. I was like a true, the trademark true Christian. Like, I really genuinely believed, and like my idols were the martyrs, like the Christian martyrs. I don't know if you remember Ray Boltz. He was a Christian singer who later got ousted by the Christian community because he came out as a gay man.
Oh no, I'm not familiar with him.
That was like, I pledge allegiance to the Lamb. All about the martyrs. And that's what I wanted to be. And I was like, to give my life for Jesus and go to the mission field. And I was after I graduated from high school, I wanted to join New Tribes Bible Institute and go and reach the unreached souls. And so if you would have looked at me, you never would have believed that I would be sitting here as an ex-Christian today, because I was really, really gung-ho for Jesus.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think, you had great, no one could dare say to you, oh, come on, you just haven't tried enough, you don't know your Bible well enough, or you haven't done this well enough, or haven't done that well enough. And you say, actually.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what? So was there a time within the faith that you had sort of like doubts or queries? Hang on a minute, this doesn't quite add up. This doesn't make sense. As strong as you were in your faith, were there things that you thought, I need to just think this thing through? Or were you ever scared to think anything through? Sorry, I'm asking too many questions at once.
No, those are fun. I did have questions, and that was part of what, I think a lot of Christians do have questions, and they're afraid to admit that they have questions.
Yeah.
But I remember having questions about, very simple things like, why is it that a woman can't preach? Because it would drive me nuts. There were some men in our church who would give us sermons, and they were boring. And I was like, why does God prefer to have this boring man who is making everyone fall asleep over a woman? And there were some really skilled female speakers in our church, but they weren't allowed to speak to anyone but women and children. And it's like, this woman would actually be able to teach us something because we wouldn't be falling asleep. And I remember one time asking, sorry, this is a bit uncouth, but I said, it's not like a penis is an antenna to God. Something.
Yeah, yes.
And I remember I was like a teenager, I think, when I said that. My mom was not impressed. But so, little things like that at first. But, and then, of course, I was dealing with issues in my family life where it didn't really line up with what I thought my parents should be doing as Christians, and so stuff like that would kind of make me ask questions. And there was always the whole where is God when I'm suffering? Why is God not relieving my suffering? So that would also bring up a lot of questions. But at the end of the day, it's I always kind of thought whatever God wants, as long as God is real, I can trust that God this is his will for my life, as much as it sucks, as much as it hurts.
Yeah.
But then questions got bigger.
Okay, this is interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember like kind of coming to the conclusion that, like, you know, people in the Old Testament, like, if they had doubts, they had God come down to them. Like, you know, God literally talked to the people, the prophets of old, and Jacob and Isaac and all that. And he would as like a pillar of fire.
Yeah.
And so if at any point, like, you were questioning, like, you know, should I follow God, your decision was whether or not to obey. It wasn't like, does God exist? It's the question of faith is such a bigger question to us in the post-New Testament world, so to speak.
Yeah.
We don't have that, you know? Like, and doubting Thomas was scolded for needing proof of Jesus' resurrection, but at the same time, he got proof.
Yes. Yeah, I've thought about that. Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, as I started struggling with, you know, like, I would often pray that prayer in Mark 9:24, where he says, "I believe, help thou my unbelief." And as I struggled with my doubts, I would often say, like, you know, God, like, you know, you know what it would take, like, you know, you know what it would take for me to believe stronger. Like, I don't want to leave this faith. I don't want to start, you know, throwing everything that I've lived for away, but
yeah,
like, I need you to show up in my life.
Yes.
And the Psalms, you know, they're full of verses where, like, I cried out to God and he heard my prayer and he delivered me. The Lord restored the years that the locusts had eaten. And it's like, I wasn't that manifested in my life. There was no pillar of fire. There was no God coming down. There was no, just a bunch of questions that didn't have answers, right?
Yeah, I agree. And sort of, I don't know about you, but I found, I mean, I've never had, I'm exactly the same. You can have like a head knowledge, but not feel. And I've never felt. I've never felt the, you know, I'd be going sort of like evangelical churches, and I'd be surrounded by people speaking in tongues and falling over, and some people sort of barking like dogs or whatever. And I used to think, hang on, this is almost like euphoria. It's like a bit like a yawn. One person yawns, another person yawns. There was something, it wasn't, I'm not judging anyone, but I just got the impression it was kind of a bit like dominoes falling down, you know. Yeah, sorry.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because that was also part of my experience. As I was kind of getting older and starting to ask questions, really, like, allowing myself to ask questions. And I think, you know, if I hadn't had the upbringing that I did, I don't know that I would have necessarily even felt the need to ask questions. But as I was asking questions, I did start going to other churches. And at one point, I was going to a Calvinist church, which is, you know, the people who believe that we're all predestined, and so if you don't have faith, it's like, well, you weren't predestined to have faith.
Yeah,
that's a little scary, where you're like, hey, I've got doubt. Maybe I'm not predestined for salvation. Oh, great.
Yeah.
That's a lot of fun.
Yes, yeah.
But then I also went to a charismatic church at one point, and I do remember having that sense of, like, okay, well, if I can be baptized in the Holy Spirit, then maybe then I'll feel something. I'll feel something real. And it's not that I never felt anything, because there were definitely times when I would, like I said, I'd go to the retreat and come back on this big spiritual high, and you're like, or you go out in nature and you feel like the sense of awe, like, you know, the forest and the trees and the mountain, and, like, you know, you go to the Grand Canyon, it's gorgeous, right?
I bet.
But at the same time, it's like, well, atheists get that.
Yes,
that sense of awe is not unique to Christianity. That sense of euphoria can be experienced in many other ways.
Yeah.
And so how do I know that this feeling that I'm feeling in my head is Jesus, and not the fact that I'm, like, completely in love with the stars?
Yeah. I get you. Yeah, it's I think I know what you mean. It's, yeah, you can feel, I mean, I have friends that are, I don't know if I'd say Buddhists, but sort of very spiritual and very loving, very kind, And they feel really deeply, probably deeper than I have. I mean, it sounds like you've probably had a deeper feeling than I have, but and I think, well, they haven't got one iota of Jesus. They're certainly not against Christ, but they've found a different path, and it gives them joy and peace. And no, sorry. So going on from what you've said, yeah, that's interesting. How a feeling may not necessarily be something linked to something that's real.
That's right, and it's fascinating to me as I've gone on and I've done a lot of studies and religious studies, that what was so unique to Christianity really isn't at all unique to Christianity.
Okay.
And you can listen to people who are from cult, and they will tell you that, like, they heard Mother God, spaceship person, like, speak into their soul, and that's how they knew they had the truth. Like, it's the same kind of thing when I hear my Christian friends, like, the Holy Spirit spoke to me.
Yeah.
Like, okay, it's like, which one of you is really hearing from the divine source? Which one of you is making it up?
Yeah.
Maybe both of you? How do you know? Like,
yes.
And they'll say, well, they're hearing from demons. Okay, but if you ask the Mormons, you're the ones who are hearing from demons, because you've got the wrong version of the faith.
Yeah.
The Muslims will tell you you've got the wrong version of the faith. So maybe everyone has the wrong version of the faith. Like, at some point, it's like, how do you know that you've not made up this feeling in your own head?
Absolutely. And also, it's almost like, will the real God please stand up, isn't it? I mean, it's good. I remember seeing a stall of what was it? It was I think that was a Christmas market. It was some sort of market thing years ago, and it was. Is it the hang on, what are the Quakers? Is it the Quakers? Unitarians. And I remember looking at these people and thinking, I wonder if, I'd like to know what the background, and quite often they were quite sort of older people. I thought, I wonder what the background is. Did they all think, right, we've thought all this through and we haven't got a flying fig of a clue what the reality is. We're just going to be Unitarians. Mm-hmm. But it's true, isn't it?
At that point, you may as well just be a humanist. It's kind of the same concept.
Yeah, this is it. And when you see, like, under the umbrella of theism, and as you say, Christine, sort of like the Mormons are right and the Christians are, and this is right and that's right, and it's almost like it's a battle of the faiths. Mm-hmm. So if we're only human, if there is a God and he sees all this going on, surely he would have a lot more compassion and understanding and sort of just put his head in his hands. Oh, here we go, rather than want to batter for faith that whatever outcome we've arrived at. I don't know, that's always been a thing that I've struggled with as well. It's kind of, it's...
And that's really kind of what it boiled down to for me as well when it came to my faith, because Matthew, I believe it's Matthew 12, it talks about like the generation that asks for a sign, and then the only sign that they need is the resurrection. But it's like, well, the resurrection was written in the Bible. And so then the only evidence that we really have for the resurrection, the crucifixion, the whole Jesus story really boils down to, like, what's in the Bible.
Yeah.
And for me, that really was the what my faith stood on, was, like, I couldn't trust my own experience. I couldn't really trust my feelings. So I needed the Bible to be true. And I grew up in a church where the Bible was inerrant. The Bible was the Word of God. I believe it's 2 Timothy 2. I used to know all these references. I think it's 2 Timothy 3:16, if I'm not mistaken. The one with all Scripture is given by inspiration of God, is without reproof. And anyway, it's basically the idea that, like, the Bible, of course, is going to say that it's true because, well, it's the Bible, which is a circular argument in and of itself.
Yeah.
But so it really came down to, like, can I trust the Bible? And when I started exploring, because I've always been one of those people who will read, like, both sides of a question. I love conspiracy theories where I'll read the pro side and the anti side, and, like, try to come up with, like, this is an interesting theory that the Beatles replaced Paul. What's the evidence?
Oh, yes.
Counter evidence. So I did the same thing when it came to the Bible, and I stumbled upon a book called Misquoting Jesus by Bart Ehrman. So Bart Ehrman is a New Testament scholar. He finds himself as having left the faith kicking and screaming, which is a sentiment that I really resonate with because I didn't want to leave this faith either.
Yeah.
And he presents us just a lot of evidence of the fact that the Bible is a book with errors. And I had never noticed them before, never allowed myself to really see them before. And after reading his book and a few others, I just came to the conclusion that, like, the Bible is a very human book.
Yeah.
And we know that the original gospel writers didn't write in a contemporary time to Jesus' events, to the events that, if they happened, his followers were Aramaic. They were not Greek writers, which is the Gospels were written in Greek, and most of those people at that time would have been illiterate. So it wasn't written by Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. These were not eyewitness statements. And I believe the earliest record is 40 years after Jesus' death, if I'm not mistaken.
I've heard something like that, yeah.
It's a really long amount of time. I mean, like, I couldn't tell you what happened in a business meeting a week ago verbatim, let alone what happened 40 years ago, but when I wasn't there. So that to me was problematic. But on top of that, there are actual contradictions in the record. Okay. So one of the best examples is the day of Jesus' death. Matthew, Mark, and Luke say that Jesus died the day after Passover. The Passover meal had already been eaten.
Okay.
But John, in John 19, he says that Jesus died the day before Passover, as the lambs are being slaughtered.
Right.
Did he die twice?
Well, that's interesting.
One of them is wrong.
Yeah.
Same thing with the hour of crucifixion. Mark has the third hour, which is 9 a.m. in our type of time. And John 19 says he died at the 6th hour.
Okay.
Can't be both.
Yeah.
So, little things like that. There's many, many more examples. I won't go into them all, but I could give a few if you want. But it's the more I've read this stuff, the more I was like, okay, that means that the Bible is not inerrant.
Yeah.
And if I can't rely on this book as my evidence for the existence of Jesus, my evidence for what Jesus said, what Jesus did, the resurrection, all that, like the book therefore it can't be the foundation of my life anymore.
That's interesting. Yeah, and I'm interested that I've never heard a Christian mention about, I'm rubbish with sort of like, I don't know, I'm good with autobiographies, but anything to do with fiction, anything to do with stories, I'm lost. But when you go to buy a book, usually the first thing we look at is what it's about and the sometimes it's called the foreword or the preface or whatever. And now I should have had, before we did this show, I should have had my Bible in front of me because I'm sure it's the New International Version, as with any version. If you look at the preface, it says something to the effect of, although we've tried our hardest to make this as accurate as humanly possible, it's something like that. We've tried our best to make this, there could be like room for error. Yeah. Doesn't it? It says something like that. And I'm thinking, why don't many Christians look at that and think, hang on a minute, the things we're arguing about may actually be irrelevant things to argue about because it may not be correct anyway.
They may not have been the words of Jesus. And that's where the book Misquoting Jesus, I highly recommend it because he makes a really strong argument for the fact that scribes have added things to the Bible. Oh. In fact, we know for a fact that the story of Mark, where the resurrection ends, I believe it's Mark 16, the rest of that was added after the fact. It was not in the original earliest manuscripts.
Okay.
And I remember seeing that as a kid. I believe it was in the margins of the New Testament, whether it was the King James or the NIV, I can't remember. One of the Bibles I had, I remember seeing that during one of the church services. I went, oh, that's weird. Yeah. Because it says like the original manuscripts didn't include the story. Same thing with the story of the woman caught in adultery.
Oh, right.
It was not in the original manuscripts.
Oh, right.
There's quite a few other examples of that. There's the sweat and blood of Jesus when he was supposed to have like sweat blood. That was not that is believed to have been added as well. And in the examples that Bart Ehrman gives, you can tell what's been added by the flow being broken. So there's like the text will read in a certain style, and it'll be written a certain way, and then suddenly there's this line that's thrown in there, and it's jarring to the rest of the text. So if you read it in the original Greek, even more so. And it's not. Scholars, New Testament scholars, have known this, and this is not even a secret. Like if you go to any seminary, like they will admit this stuff to you. Like this is not hidden. It's just hidden from the lay people, I guess, because it's not really talked about. But that means that like the song that we used to sing in Sunday school, like every word in the book is true. It like every word in the book. Some of them may be original to the original writers. Yeah. Many of them, some of them, who knows? Like there are definitely things that were added. And then, like, how much do you want to trust your whole life to a book that is a human book? Yeah.
That is scary, isn't it? What is the is it called the Lost? There's an official word, isn't there? Is it the Lost Gospels, where Mary Magdalene was supposed to have had a gospel? There was supposed to be one by Thomas, wasn't there? And that lots have been missed. Don't know much about those.
I can't remember offhand. Bart Ehrman has written a couple books on that as well. There's one called The Lost Christianities. Oh. I haven't finished reading it yet, so I can't comment enough on it. But it's stuff like that just kind of makes you go,
Yeah, that's interesting.
And then, like, when you have that, things suddenly start making sense because it's a human book. It's a book that was compiled. It was oral history that was passed down. And that's why it makes sense that you're not going to get an exact statement. Like, there was no tape recorder. There was nobody who was making sure that, like, everything was documented. Yeah. And, there is some belief that, like, the version of Christianity that we have is completely fabricated. It's not even what Jesus or who Jesus would have been. So, anyway, just a lot of this stuff that as I read it, I kind of just went, no.
Yeah,
I not really felt God's presence in a way that I knew it was God, and now you're telling me, like, I've got to base my whole belief on a book that isn't really believable anymore.
Yeah. Do you think that there are do you think there are many Christians that the whole thing of projection, or putting their feelings onto someone else, that they're sort of, as you mentioned earlier about, you're in rebellion, or you just want to sin or do your own thing. Do you think they're actually themselves scared to think too much about things like this? Because who would they be if they didn't have their faith?
I think there's definitely an aspect of fear to that. Because I remember feeling that myself when I was having doubts. And I had a friend who had gone to the Christian school that I went to. She was in my brother's class, and she preceded me out of the faith. And I remember, like, how heartbroken I was when she said she was an ex-Christian. She had hurt Jesus' feelings. Like, I was feeling that secondhand pain, for saying that. And there's definitely an anxiety, because if you look at someone who has been an exemplary Christian, and if you had asked anyone when I was a teenager if I was a Christian, like, nobody would have. I mean, I was a Christian. I was very much a believer, and so if I can fall away from the faith and lose my faith, somebody who was, like, so invested, who, like, wanted to be a missionary, for crying out loud, like, then it can happen to anyone, and I think that's where that comes from. They have to blame the person who's left the faith, because what's left, if it's not my fault that I'm an ex-Christian, if it's not me that did something wrong and didn't believe right, or didn't have the right information, then they have to blame their faith, and they can't do that. So
no, I think you're right. I think that's and I think also there's kind of there's almost like I don't know how you feel about this, but with a lot of Christians, I think the whole concept of salvation, everything, if you're outside of the faith, you've had it, and I find it hard to believe that they don't question the nature of God, that if you haven't got his, okay, so you've got to first of all believe in God, then you've got to get the right version of God, then you've got to get the doctrine right, then you've got to get this right, you've got to get that right, you've got to basically have everything correct, and if you haven't, that's it, you deserve this eternal torturous punishment. And it's almost as if surely they think this through, that you can't marry that with love. You can't have an unconditionally loving, or even loving, slightly loving God, who can also do that through one's sincere disbelief, or even if it was rebellion, it's not deserving of that. I can't understand how people don't think this through.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Like, it's a horrible thing to think about, because you've got someone like me who did not set out to rebel, who didn't set out to sin. In fact, like, if you ask my best friend, she'll tell you I'm more Christian than a lot of Christians that she knows, even as an atheist. You know, I was never promiscuous. I never did I've never been drunk even once in my life. Like, I was never somebody who was like, I'm going to rebel against God so I can sin.
Yeah.
You know, I was someone who really, really wanted, like, you know, God, like, if you're real, like, I want to believe in you. I want to follow you to the ends of the earth.
Yes.
And you're telling me, like, God's going to throw me into hell because the evidence that I needed to believe wasn't there for me?
Yeah.
Harsh.
Yeah.
You know, or like someone else who just, like, happened to pray the sinner's prayer and was kind of a jerk all their life, and they're going to get into heaven because they prayed the sinner's prayer and they didn't stop believing? Really?
That makes no sense. We're dealing with quite a narcissistic God who says, right, it's all about me. It's about my ego. It's about you. There's no sort of feeling for, fair enough, we don't want to go around hurting people, but something that sort of, like we mentioned about same-sex attraction, or something that is biblically, scripturally, supposedly wrong, but doesn't hurt other people. What sort of God would say, but I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't have any feelings for you, but I don't want it. You've got to think, you know.
Yeah. I mean, it isn't really fair, you know, if you want to look at it that way. Like, God made us capable of having, you know, capable of following, if you want to go back to the story of Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
And he knew before the foundations of the earth, and, you know, Ephesians talks about that, like, that he chose us from the foundations of the earth to be saved, especially if you have a Calvinistic mindset. And so, like, that means that, like, God predestined all of this, like, including the creation of Satan, who would tempt Adam. He knew all this, knew exactly how it was going to go. He knew he was going to put somebody into a family where they were going to hear the gospel, and they were not going to have any issues with faith because they were never abused, so they never had reason to question their faith, and they get to go into heaven, cool.
Yeah.
And then these other people, well, sorry, they were born into a Muslim country, and they honored their parents, and they followed their faith as best as they were told and taught, and whoops, well, they got the wrong faith, so they're going to go into hell.
Yeah.
Like, God predestined all this from the foundations of the earth, and he's a good, loving God.
Yes. It's almost like a trick. It's
people?
not. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a really trick situation. That's a really good word for it. Like, does God really deserve love and praise and adoration if this is the kind of being that he is?
Yeah.
That he's going to torture people in they're going to be wailing and gnashing of teeth, and oh my gosh, to this day I cannot look at a campfire without remembering those days of having hell, like, stared over my head as I was at Bible camp.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Like, imagine yourself in that fire, and, like, imagine, like, you know, of course you're going to get saved a million times over. You're like, I don't want that, please. But, you know, this is the kind of God that they're worshiping, who has created people knowing what they were going to be, who they were going to be, and these people who have sought him and struggled all their life to try to do the right thing. Whoops, you got the wrong religion, into hell you go.
Yeah.
What kind of monster is that? Like, why is it that human beings are kinder and more compassionate than this supposed all-loving God?
Yeah, I can't get my head. It's something I've been thinking about for ever since I was a nipper. Something. I mean, I couldn't rationalise it back then, but it just seemed all very strange. It made me laugh once. I've mentioned this before on a show. Because my dad was he's retired from the pulpit now, but he was a minister, and as a little kid, it just tickled me pink because he got the words wrong, but it didn't have any bigger meaning for me then. And he said the closing prayer, rather than let's close our eyes and bow our heads, he said let's close our heads. Let's bow our eyes and close our heads.
That's awesome.
And I think that's brilliant. Now I'm thinking, yes, Dad, you got it right. You got it right. But and it's strange. I mean, we mentioned before, didn't we, about sort of like rapture fear. What did we call it?
Yeah.
The whole everything. And I'll tell you what's really cruel, Christine. I didn't mention this as we spoke before, but there's actually YouTube clips. I had to put my hand back from typing and commenting of Christian parents playing the rapture trick on their kids, and they're leaving clothes. I cannot believe this.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah.
No, I remember watching A Thief in the Night when I was a kid, and it was a good movie for its time. Like, Christian movies often are not high budget, but this was a good movie. But yeah, I mean, it scared the crap out of everyone who watched it. Like,
yes.
This little girl comes in and she's like, "I thought you were God. I thought you." Like, what a torturous, horrible thing to. Children have grown up traumatized because of thinking that they were not good enough to get into heaven, and they got left behind.
Yeah. That was scary, that film. It was just the flares for a start, but it was scary, that film.
Yeah.
And it's, it frightened the life out of me. But it's but I'd heard, I don't know how true, you probably know more about this than I do, but that the rapture was something that was added to scripture, apparently the original Christianity, whatever we want to call it, didn't believe in the rapture. That was something that was sort of added on or misinterpreted. Is that right?
I think so. I think you're right on that, and I don't have enough information to really fully comment. I believe that was in the book that Bart Ehrman, The Lost Christianities, I think mentions it, or one of his other ones. I'm not sure. I've read quite a lot of his stuff, but I wish I had more to say on that. I know that there's a lot of things that were added over time. The belief in the Trinity was one of them. There was a line that was thrown into the New Testament, and I and my Father are one, or something like that, and it breaks the flow of the text, and so that was added. But I do think the rapture is one of those things that you get some of that out of Revelations, you get some of that out of a few passages here and there, but definitely a whole theology of the eschatology, I guess, of pre-trib and post-trib and these big debates that have been going on for years, and it's just it's so frustrating to me that humans are spending so much time debating these things when we have real problems and issues that need to be solved. And it breaks my heart when I see Jesus spent a lot of time talking about how you treat the least in your midst, and how those who go to heaven are the ones who fed the hungry and gave drink to the thirsty, and clothed the naked, visited those in prison, were kind to the strangers. And yet, we seem to be ignoring this as a Christian culture.
Yes.
And there's just so many debates over things that are not worth debating, while we let people literally starve in our own communities.
Yeah, absolutely. I've noticed this. I find it's the last place we should find judgment should be in Christianity.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Christians end up being a very poor testament for Christianity.
Yeah.
It's Gandhi said. He said, "I love your Christ, but I do not like your Christians, because your Christians are nothing like your Christ."
Yeah. And it's shame. I don't know how. In a sense, I suppose, maybe there is such a thing called Christian narcissism, where you kind of, if you're sort of, maybe there's, I've often wondered, Christian, if there's maybe sort of two types of Christians. You've got the version where, right, now I'm best friends with God. I've given my life to Christ. I'm best friends with God. Now this permits me to go around judging everyone's salvation status and telling them how wrong they're living. And then you've got another type of Christian that say, right, it's our own. Well, yeah, it's not for us to look at other people, and it's between them and God. And my job is just to love. And I think if we had the latter type of Christian, where their job is just to love, even if, you know, whether we believe what they believe or not, I think we'd feel a lot warmer to that.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think I would never have started asking questions of Christianity if the Christians I had been surrounded with had been more loving.
Yeah.
And I look at how Christians responded, for instance, during the start of the pandemic, when there were government mandates, and to their credit, many churches did shut down during that period, but there were other Christians who felt so entitled that they actually went and had worship services at Walmart so that they could be praising God while infecting their vulnerable neighbors. Like, what kind of loving Christ example is that?
Yeah.
You know, and it continues to this day. Like, COVID isn't over, and it's still killing people, it's still disabling people, and vulnerable, immunocompromised people are no longer able to go to church. I've got several friends in that community with long COVID, and there's no churches that wear masks so that they can go and participate. So it's an ongoing issue. So you are definitely right. There's two different kinds of Christians. I thankfully have met some of the loving Christians.
Yes,
to their credit, there was a progressive, kind of a more liberal Christian family that took me in. I spent about 20 years off and on homeless because of my undiagnosed neurodivergence, and I had a lot of health issues, and I kept bouncing on and off of welfare and jobs. Yeah, it's been a fun life.
Yeah, but, I'm sorry to hear that. I left
home way too early. That's its own story. Kicked out prematurely. Anyway, but lots of, there were Christians who did help me, and so I give credit to them. Yeah. They lived their faith, and if every Christian lived their faith, I think we would have less reason to question Christianity, because Jesus said we will know them by their fruit.
Yes, yeah.
And we would see more fruit. We would see more evidence that God changes people, that there's a supernatural change in people's lives. Yeah. And I've known way too many Christians who have not been kind and loving to believe that the supernatural change is a real thing. I think people who are good and kind probably would have been good and kind as humanists. They happen to be good, kind Christians. Yes. And then the Christians who are entitled and like, prosperity gospel, bless me Lord, bless me Lord. Like, I think they would have been entitled whether they were Christians or not. So.
Actually, yes, I think you're absolutely right. But it's almost like once you add the faith, it's like, oh crikey, this is lethal now. But I think I shall never forget. I can't think what book it was, but it was written by a Lee Strobel type chap. Who would it have been? It was an apologetic. It's someone you would have heard of, but it was quite a big name. So big that I can't remember who it is. But
Keller.
Oh crumbs! Hang on. I've heard of that name as well. Lots of these I've watched podcasts and things, but I'm trying to think. I'm looking at a bookshelf and I can't. It's not screaming at me. Anyway, but I was really impressed. It was someone saying that that he believed that atheists would go to heaven, but they'll just be in for a nice big surprise. And I thought, that's really nice.
Sure, I know.
I think that's really nice. I mean, it may sound patronising, but I thought that's a loving attitude rather than I'm better than you. I'm like that with God. That I'm going to make it and you're not. I thought that was really. I've never heard. You know
what? I like that more than the people who say that we're all going to reincarnate and have to do this bloody life all over again. So yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah. Oh, that scares me. I hope that isn't the case. I don't like the thought of that.
No, thank you. I don't want another one, unless they're going to put me like maybe 300 years into the future when we solved climate change and pollution and gotten the microplastics out of our water and gotten rid of COVID. Like maybe then I'll come back, but not right now. I'm good.
There may be a waiting room. Who knows? One thing we touched on last time, Christine, was the nature of miracles and what sort of qualifies as a miracle and how we can sort of. There's pretty amazing things going on that we think, my goodness, how can that could that really just happen? And then there's other things that are like we said before, finding your car keys in the last place you left them, or I think we touched, didn't we, that there was sort of like a lot on. People can sort of throw the word miracle around quite freely.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen anything or anything that you could have put down to sort of near to a miracle that could actually happen anyway?
I mean, that's just there's a lot of things that people call miracles are not, by definition, miracles.
Yeah.
And, I've never seen a resurrection. I've never seen someone's teeth spontaneously regenerate. I've never seen limbs regenerate. When people say, like, oh, it's a miracle, I prayed and my cousin's cancer went away. It's like, well, cancer does that sometimes.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, it's a miracle, I found a parking spot. Like, cool, sometimes people drive away. That's not a miracle. So, I've definitely had people who did faith healing and prayed over me. One of my health issues is that I've lost, like, most of my teeth. And I remember there was a time that I had people laying hands on me and speaking in tongues. And it wasn't because I didn't have faith, because I had faith in that moment. And I reached my tongue up to feel those teeth, expecting them to be there.
Yeah.
And they weren't there. So,
yeah.
I don't know, maybe last minute change of faith or something, but I think it's frustrating that people like to attribute miracles when they're not really miracles.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I remember no disrespect to my mum, I love my mum dearly, but I remember as a kid going to, I don't know if you have Tesco over there, maybe like your Walmart. I'm quite jealous of your Walmart because I'd love to go to Walmart. It sounds brilliant. But we have like a miniature version called Tesco. What was that? Sorry, I missed that. Say again.
Oh, I said, trust me, it's not all it's cracked up to be. They're pretty corrupt as a business. But.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Oh, I'll put off now that now.
Amazon, they don't pay their employees well enough, and then they make billions of dollars.
Right.
Like all the CEOs tend to.
Ah, that's not so good then. Oh, no. But after work, my mum and I would go sort of into town, and we would go into Tesco's, like a food store at the time, and she would say, bless her, and sometimes as children you think, hang on a minute, that's not quite right, but you can't rationalise it. And we would be in the Tesco car park, and she'd turn round to me, I was in the back of the seat, and she'd say, that was an answer to prayer, wasn't it? And I'd be thinking, what? But it's a car park. like you say, it's a car. And bless her, that must be lovely to have that sort of, well, I don't know if it's naive or lovely, but imagine having that sort of degree of faith where you think God is in...
It's God as a Pez dispenser. You just kind of push the button and out pops an answered prayer,
Yeah, actually, yes. Yeah. Oh.
God is he helping you find a parking spot? That's why he had to let this kid in Africa die of starvation. Sorry, kid.
That's when you think, yeah. Why?
Maybe he wasn't praying hard enough, and the person behind the wheel was praying harder. I don't know how this hierarchy of prayer works, but.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Going on to an absolute extreme version now. A few months ago, wasn't that long ago, I interviewed Shirley Phelps Roper, the delightful Shirley Phelps Roper of God Hates Fags, Westbrook Baptist Church. And you may already know they believe that, not, their horrible memes and videos about 9/11, these parodies, these songs, and they absolutely believe that everyone in 9/11 was unsaved. Hang on, where am I going with this? Where are we going with this? What we were just saying about this sort of, special. Why would God set us up? I'm losing my thread. Get to my age, you lose your thread. Why would God sort of favour a certain? And I actually asked her, so do you honestly believe that none of your family or none of your anyone in your church would, God forbid, if there's ever any other catastrophe like that, something dreadful at the hands of other humans, do you honestly believe that your flock would be saved? And she said, yeah. And I'm thinking that is, to have that, everyone who was killed on that dreadful, and afterwards, they were all, God wasn't shining on them, but he's shining on Westbrook Baptist Church and the Phelps family. And
it's sad, I mean, not to mention the fact that there were children that died that day, so Johnny, like, I mean, I don't really care to even argue with people like that because it's like that's just a stupid and cruel belief.
It is.
But
absolutely,
you know,
yeah.
I keep coming back to, like, you know, Ephesians says, like, you know, you're saved by grace through faith, and in James it says faith without works is dead. And so we've got a whole society right now of people who call themselves Christians whose works are not being shown through their faith. They're not serving the poor. They're letting people become poorer and poorer all the time. They're not serving the sick.
Yeah.
They're letting people get sicker by refusing to wear masks, by refusing to protect the vulnerable. We've got a whole society of people who cheered, and this is more so the case in the States when the SNAP benefits were shut down. I'm not sure if you guys heard all that.
What's that? No.
Yeah, basically the government was shut down because Trump wanted to take away people's health care, and it was shut down. A lot of people were not able to access their SNAP benefits, which is a food supplement.
Right.
And there were so many people that I know who are Christians who were cheering for that and thinking that was a good thing, that these people could no longer get help from the government. Like,
oh, for goodness sake, yeah.
And if churches were helping, like, they would help just a little, and it's piecemeal help.
Yeah. That's not, no, it's getting it all wrong, isn't it?
Yeah, it just seems like if Christians really want us to believe in Christianity, I mean, well, never mind the fact that the evidence for the Bible doesn't really prove Christianity to me. The best proof to me that Christianity is just a made-up religion is the people who claim to be Christians. I don't see the evidence in the majority of Christians that there's anything different in that religion than in Islam or, you know, I think, you know, if anything, Buddhists probably have a kinder approach to society. They're a lot more loving and gentle, and most of them are vegan, and, you know, maybe Buddhism has got it right. And
yeah. Or maybe it's the ultimate truth is something that we haven't got a clue about, and no one ever would. Whatever ultimate truth is, we could be in an experiment in some kid's bedroom or something, couldn't we? The whole lot of it could be just some, I don't know, it's going on to a different tangent, but I think you're absolutely...
Yeah. But yeah, so I guess just to wrap up, like, my arguments, when I was looking for evidence for Christianity, it didn't line up to the evidence that I was seeing. And I mentioned Bart Ehrman, but there was also a lot of other stuff too, like the evidence for a 6,000-year Earth is not there.
Okay.
The geological record definitely does not support that.
Yeah.
The evidence for evolution is definitely strong. The idea that, like, intelligent design is why humans are so superior. We're not.
No.
If you look at other species, there's many species who have features that are way better than ours, that are way better adapted, that could make our lives much easier. I mean, a shark loses their teeth and it regrows.
Oh,
we don't have that.
No, that's true.
There's many animals who have much better vision. Limb regeneration is a thing in some species. So yeah, we evolved, and the evidence is that we evolved. And we have the brains and the bodies that we have because they survived. They allowed our ancestors to survive, to reproduce. But, there's just so much evidence that the world is not intelligently designed, that the fact that we exist as a planet at all, you know, people say, well, look, the universe is fine-tuned. No, I think the universe just got lucky. There's not the evidence that the apologists that I used to love so much have. There's plenty of evidence against their claims, and I actually think that apologetics really satisfies Christians more than it satisfies non-believers, because I don't know too many people who read an apologetic book and were like, oh, this is great, I'm going to become a Christian now. I think you have to want to be a Christian for the apologetics to really satisfy you.
Oh, that's interesting. Yes. Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Once I was willing to possibly leave my faith behind, that's when it started to make, you know, I was able to read these books and go, okay, there might be something here. And Julia Sweeney actually was really helpful to me in my deconversion. She did a really great monologue that's part comedy, part serious, called Letting Go of God.
Okay.
You can find it on YouTube. And one of the things she talks about is she, at one point, put on what she called the no God glasses.
Right.
And she says, I put that on my eyes, and I look at the world, and, even if I'm a believer right now, I want to put on these no God glasses and be like, hey, does the world look any different?
Yeah.
And I tried that exercise myself when I was still quasi-believing and wanting to believe, and I would put on the no God glasses, and I realized, there is no real evidence. The world doesn't look any different. The world, my own personal life doesn't look any different. I'm not getting spiritual intervention with my health issues. I'm not getting spiritual intervention with all the things that I'm going through.
Yeah.
There's not really any evidence of miracles like we just talked about. And whether or not there's a God, it's not relevant to my life. And so at that point, I made the decision to move on with my life as if there was no God. And it didn't really ultimately change much because I was never a horrible person before, and I wasn't a horrible person after. It was just a matter of I'm not going to live my life by the rules of the Bible anymore.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I still ended up probably being a kinder human being than a lot of Christians, oddly enough.
Yeah.
But,
I know what you mean. At the end of, so I personally, I am a theist, but one with lots of questions. And I think if there was a God, he, again, what we said, we automatically say he would be big enough to see that. Again, it's the whole thing of you've had it, whatever the truth is, it would be big enough to. So I can understand you coming to the conclusion that there isn't being. Well, actually, I haven't asked you. Are you fearless? I mean, is there? If you knew you had 24 hours to live, would you have any thief in the night any sort of thief in the night panics, or would you? Do you feel comfortable with Would you believe in non-existence? Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I do think that after we die, that's it. I don't have any. I know I've got plenty of friends who believe in reincarnation and whatnot, and I'm like, okay, cool, not cool, I don't know.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think it would be a big existential crisis. I'd probably just more worried about oh, did I put my pictures online? Because nobody's gonna find those on my hard drive if I die. But
yeah.
I mean, I know that if I were to die and then people say, well, what if you're wrong? Isn't it better just to believe? What if you're wrong and then you die and go to heaven? I've got nothing to lose because I'm a Christian, but if you die and you end up going to hell, you've got everything to lose. And I feel like that's a false dichotomy because, first of all, I do have something to lose if I believe something that's not true because I've given up my whole life for a lie.
Yes, yeah.
I've already lost plenty. I mean, I was, a virgin into my early 30s because I was following this particular faith path. So there is a lot to be lost if you believe something that isn't true.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's having that sort of that satisfaction that I think it's at the end of the day, when we can't do anything more, you can satisfy yourself with thinking, okay, I've tried my hardest, I can't see this is where I've come to, and that's how it is, and I think you can satisfy yourself with that.
Yep. And if I died and I had to meet God, I would hope that if there is a being after our lives judging us, that he, she, it would be able to look at the story of my life and my journey and take everything into account and see how much I tried, how much I wanted to believe, how much I loved my fellow humans. Yeah. How much, I did so much activism trying to help other people not hurt as much as all the crap that I've gone through. Yeah. And if that doesn't count for anything, and I get before God, and he's like, well, sorry, you denied me before man, so I'm going to throw you into pit of hell. I mean, that really sucks. But then I come back down to that question that I asked, is that a being that was worth loving in the first place? Is that a being that was worth worshiping? That's it, isn't it? If that's who's judging us at the end of our existence, is well, you didn't pray the prayer, and you didn't follow me properly enough, and you didn't say enough, come on. Yeah.
And I think that's it, isn't it? That's what it boils down to. How can we feel love for someone that's sort of pointing a gun to our head, saying, right, you recognise me, you do it my way, or else? We can't, going back to, we can't love someone that we have fear for over.
Yeah, he set up a universe in which he knew he would sin.
Yeah.
And he created the punishment of sin, which was death.
Yeah.
And then he got Jesus to pay the punishment of sin. Yeah. And if you don't believe in Jesus, then you get to die. And it's like, but you could have just created a different system. If you didn't have to create a system in which we were going to sin, you didn't have to create a system in which the punishment was death, and you don't have to punish people who don't believe in that system in the first place.
Yes.
It's just why? Why do we have to be grateful for somebody, like you said, who's holding a gun to your head and saying, believe in me or I'm going to torture you for all eternity?
Yeah.
I'm supposed to say thank you?
And it's strange, isn't it, how the whole thing, this never makes sense to me, Christine, this whole Jesus is what we don't deserve. And I'm thinking, what sort of God would it be that would set up that system, and then he doesn't send Jesus? He doesn't send Jesus. We're dealing with, it gets even worse.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense? Sorry, have I come across well? Yeah.
No, I understand. Yeah, like, I mean, it's definitely a fair question to ask. Like, it's a narcissistic being.
Yeah.
That wants our worship and will punish us if it doesn't get it. It's worse than a toddler saying me 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 me.
Yeah, isn't it? It's it's been such a pleasure. It's we could go on. We must do a part 2 because it's there's so much to discuss with this, and it's not. And I don't think to any of my as I say, I'm a theist, but my theist or Christian friends out there, this is not. Meant to, I'm sure you'd agree with this. This is not meant to be blasphemous. It's just we need to have an almighty God would expect us to have questions regarding things that just don't add up, things that our human brains are going to be. So it's not, we're not attacking or mocking. It's just natural questions that we should be thinking about, that we do think about.
Someone said it really well. I don't remember who it was. They said, I would rather have questions that can't be answered than answers that can't be questioned.
Ah, that's good. I like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, thank you so much again, dear lady. It's been such a great privilege to have you on the show. And it's good. And I'll keep so we'll have the link on the homepage, if that's okay, to for the ex-Christian, recovering ex-Christian strips.
Yep.
We'll have that on there and on the homepage. And to the listeners, thank you again for tuning in, and much love to you.